So I asked you guys to send me your most broken drafts, and today we are going to be rating them out of 10. I actually have a professional Pokemon Draft League player with me today, the reigning BBR champion, OGalbina, to help me rate these drafts.
Man, what an intro. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, hey, Owen's with me, but I'll take it. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to look at some broken teams today.
Yeah, it should be good fun, and I had to bring in a professional Draft League player, so we're just gonna jump right into it, and we're gonna start off with somebody who you know quite well. And I'm not gonna lie, this draft made me throw up in my mouth a little bit because I was like, how the frick is this even possible? So we've got Kirby here, and this is Pack No Terra. Apparently this team made some people very upset, and it caused a whole rule change, and I can see why, because this draft has like 4 round 1 picks, and it is kind of crazy, right?
Oh, 100%. Not only does it have like 4 round 1 picks, one of those round 1 picks in Dio Speed, and I'm sure I've made it abundantly clear. I think Dio Speed is like bannable, Pult level, like insane Pokemon. That was a mid-season pickup. He didn't even draft that guy. He picked it up. He picked it up like week 4 or something. Some guy just really didn't like Dio because it didn't kill everything turn 1 or something. And that meant Blaziken, Palafin, Darkrai, Dio Speed was born. This team is like all of the I guess you could say problems with Gen 9 in general. The crazy power creep and top endness of this draft is insane.
That is insane. Like there's obviously flaws with this. Like you have a Misdreavus and a Grimer there, so you're realistically only playing with 7 Pokemon. You don't switch into ground like that well, but realistically, does that matter when you have Speed Boost Blaziken, Palafin, Darkrai, Deoxys Speed? I don't think that's going to matter at all, because you're just going to be killing things before they can like do anything. So this is a pretty insane draft, and the fact that Dio Speed was a free agent is just absolutely insane. Blows my mind. Out of 10, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to top this in terms of like just pure power level and just brokenness. So I think I'm going to open up straight up with like a 9 out of 10. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I think I'd stick there right at 9. Maybe not perfect. Like you said, there's definitely some defensive holes, but I mean, why switch into things when you could just kill them first?
Exactly.
So I think a 9 out of 10 is good.
All right, perfect. Well, the bar is set pretty high, so we'll see if anybody can realistically top that. So next up, we're going to have Bruno with his LET Master Ball Season 12. So this is free Terra, no preview. He went undefeated but lost in semis, and he says the team was insane. I mean, the draft looks pretty strong as well. Like, you have your Iron Valiant, which is obviously incredible. Terra Regidrago with free Terra and no preview is kind of a little bit scary, because realistically, you're only going to run Terras to like kill your fairies anyway, so it doesn't matter that much. But overall, compared to the other one, it is obviously lacking in a bit of power. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think Drago is really cool with Terra. Definitely a really fun mod. But Cerulege also really sticks out to me. We see that it got 16 KOs in the season.
Yeah,
a really strong Pokemon with Terra, alongside its setup options and things of the sort. Terra Fairy Cerulege is always a really scary threat. So I really like that aspect. And then I think he has a pretty cool momentum core into guys like Valiant, Drago, Cerulege, and guys like Slowking Galar, which is great alongside Valiant, like pairs with it almost perfectly. And then Corviknight, as much as I'm not a big fan of Corviknight myself, I think it fits really well here, and some great low tier value. You are right though, there is a little bit of power lacking outside of like, you know, that Valiant Drago, and then we have guys like Cerulege that can kind of clean up games. Yeah. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, I'd say this is like on a brokenness scale. I'd say a good 6 compared to like the 9 that we gave Kurtz.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. I was probably going to go with a 6 as well. It seems like a well sort of like rounded out team without anything that like super jumps out to you. I can see why it would function well, because like you said, it does sort of like work really well together. But in terms of raw brokenness, we are going to go with a 6 out of 10. So we can move on to draft number 3, and we're looking at Gentleman Thomas's team. And this was for a Wi-Fi league that he only had 1 week to play with this team. But this team, when I looked at it, I was like, oh my god, this is a really cool team. He says he wishes he could have used it more, and I can see why, because there are a lot of Pokemon on this team that I'm like, yep, I really like this guy.
Oh, 100%. In particular, like you have that old tried and true kind of like a Gen 7, Gen 8 draft, or even Gen 6 draft core of like Latios plus Weavile. Love those two together. Klefki is a great pairing too, setting up a ton of spikes. And then we have the screens aspect of Klefki, and you have guys like Palafin and Ursaluna that are ridiculously strong, but also very hard to kill under screens. They can absolutely just run away with games. Same thing with Pekarunt. We've seen the last couple of months in draft how potent that thing can be with guys like Amol and Pokemon and things like that. So that guy under screens, you set up a nasty plot and have weakness policy, you might kill everything and just not die. So I actually really like the structure of this team, despite it having a Hydrapple. So really fun one.
Yeah, no, it looks really cool. I don't know. Are you not a fan of Hydra Apple? Is that it?
I am not. I don't know what it is. I have yet to see that guy do anything meaningful or good. I think the Grass Dragon typing with no like defensive ability on top of it, like Appleton and its thick fat ability.
Yeah.
I think it's just a really, really brutal typing to have as a defensive regenerator pivot, especially in such an offensive metagame too. It's kind of stuck in that middle ground of like bulky but not bulky enough, and strong but
not strong enough.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe I'm just being a hater, but I think that guy is pretty mid for his price point.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of points you brought up. Palafin and Ursaluna, super hard to kill, and then if you can set up screens, you make them even harder to kill. You have Pokemon that like setting up, and you give Weavile that ability to set up even behind the screen. So overall, I do like this team. I'm probably going to go with a 7 out of 10. I'm not sure if you'll match the rating.
Yeah, I know. I think a 7.5 is actually pretty cool. Again, I've used Lottie, Weavile, Klefki so many times. It's a core that I absolutely love. So I say 7.5 for me.
All right, we can do 0.5s. Yeah, all right. We'll go with a 7.5 for this Gentleman Thomas team. Next up, we're gonna have Cherry Mancake. I actually helped Cherry prep a lot with this team, and I will say it was a little bit ridiculous the amount of things that this team was able to do. You straight up open up with a Zamazenta Crown and a Deoxys Speed, which like they should both be banned, realistically speaking. Like, there's no way these guys should be running around. He's got the Sandcore with Excadrill and Tyranitar, and then he's just got like a casual like last round Excalibur to sort of like add to the team. Keldeo, big fan of, and even Mismag, Rotom Fan, and Brambleghast are like very, very good low tier like value picks. So I really dig this draft. I really dig it.
Oh yeah, 100. Like you said, Dio Speed and Zama both being allowed, plus both being on the same team.
That's crazy.
Insane. And then like I think that's something crazy too is like the modes of it, right? Like we can go like Dio, Zama, like scary, like blitz setup offense and really overwhelm people. We could even go like a screens version of that with something like a Rotom. Set up dual screens for that, plus Excalibur, setup spam. But there's also like a sand mode, and like the core of Excadrill, T-Tar, and then Keldeo on sand is another like tried and true, just like draft league staple. You always see Keld sand back
exactly,
in the day.
yeah.
And that alongside like guys like Zama Crown, Dio Speed is pretty darn insane.
Pretty insane, yeah.
Really, and even though that's low tier Terra, two great low tier Terra captains too, Rotom Fan and Mismagius.
He's getting a lot of value out of those two. I think I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I don't think it's as broken as Kirby's is perhaps, but I really do like this team.
Oh yeah, I think 8's definitely fair. Definitely my second favorite team we've seen so far.
Now we're here with Stealth Hawk Dude. Format was Natdex, went undefeated, and apparently Carbink put in a legendary performance with Terra and Body Press. Now, having used Carbink in P4G, even with Terra, Emon absolutely sucks, and you should never draft it. Even if you think it's a good idea, just don't. That Pokemon is so ass. Yeah, except it just does no damage whatsoever. Now, this is our first Natdex League, I think, and we see a Mega Gallade there, and Mega Gallade might be what, like top 1 Mega in Natdex. Like I'm not too sure what the Natdex meta is now, but
yeah, it's top 3 minimum. I mean, it does what Gallade did before, but now it can't get intimed, and it has a better move pool. Like it's even better nowadays. I think like the blitz offense on this team is absolutely insane. I'm not a big Webs guy, to be completely honest, but like the Webs approach, like the Webs offense approach of Gallade setting up Swords Dances and bulk ups, Chiyu even Nasty Play, but more so probably just running specs and killing everything. Terapagos being fast at everything, Garchomp Swords Dancing and Scale Sharding, and Reverum. Again, low tier Terra captain, but I love that thing with Terra, especially if this is like a free Terra preview, considering it's showdown. Absolutely incredible mom, whether it be shift gearing up and winning, or just like, parting shotting 3 attack sets, or like, T-Spikes variants, alongside guys like Thundy, Decidueye 2, Spin Block. I think the one thing I would have loved out of this team is maybe instead of Carbink, like you said, I'm also not a big Carbink guy. I know it put in a big performance, which is dope. But Garchomp is a great spiker, but I don't like running spikes on my Garchomp. I like clicking Earthquake and Scale Shot. So maybe a better secondary spiker than Carbink, and this team would have been pretty darn ridiculous. But yeah, I really like this team. Offensively, it's incredibly strong.
Yeah, I can see that. Like his hazard game is a little bit weak because Garchomp is going to be forced into that like more times than you would want it to, because Carbink
it's also one of his 2 rockers. Yeah, that's why Carbink came so much, to be honest.
Yeah, because he wanted to free up Garchomp a little bit. Terapagos is actually something that like when it first came out, I wasn't too sure how to feel about it, but like as time went on, I realized how broken this guy can be. So having them on a team with Mega Gallade Gallade, Chiyu, and Garchomp is pretty cool to me as well. Like Terrapagos, I think is a big threat. So I'd probably give this draft probably an 8 out of 10 as well. I think it has a lot of good tools, and although Garchomp will be forced to running hazards a lot, I still think there is so much power on this team that's it is insane.
Yeah, I think 8's fine. Another thing too I forgot to mention as I'm looking is like this is like you see Webb's offense, but there is like a mode to go more balanced with like Wish Aloe and Terrapagos, Decidueye, even fatter Garchomps, even fatter Glades. I just played a Newsom game recently where I ran Max Spadef sub bulk up just because it's that fat. So like there's definitely multiple ways of approaching with this team, which I like because usually Webb's offense teams are a little bit one note. So yeah, I'd say 8 as well.
Now, this one actually caught my attention while I was reading through it because it says Terra Melmetal clicked Terra Steel Bash a lot this season. It only got 10 kills in 7 games, so I was definitely expecting a little bit more out of a Terra Melmetal, which I don't even know like if Terra Melmetal is like, I'm not sure if that should even be allowed because that does just sound ridiculous. Even resists aren't realistically resist, but it only got 10 kills, so something must have happened there. But overall speaking, I'm a big fan of the first 5 Pokemon on this draft. Mega Diancie is incredible. Terra Melmetal, Slowking, Galar, Dragonite, Tapu Fini. I'm a really big fan of those. The rest of the team kind of falls off like pretty hard. I'm a big Wo-Chan hater. Do not think the guy is good at all. Crobat is pretty good, and then Vespiquen, Smeargle, Rapscallion, I mean, they didn't even come to a single game, so realistically, this is like a 7 Pokemon draft or whatever it is, and the first 5 picks I really like, but after that, it does kind of fall off a little bit.
Yeah, very top-heavy, and again, I like those guys together. At least some of them, like Dia Melmetal seems like a really strong offensive core. Slowking plus Melmetal seems like a really solid core as well. Trick Rooming, Chilly Receptioning out, especially with Terra, seems really strong. I think the reason that Melmetal maybe didn't get as many kills isn't because it had switch-ins. It maybe is because it might have been killing itself to some helmets. Because there's not really a great way of keeping it healthy on this build. And I'm always a big advocate of something fat to pass a wish in a Melmetal when you have it. But I do like the offense, and you could see the game was, the team was pretty evenly spreading the love, right? Guys like Fini got 8 kills. Guys like D-Knight went 9-3. That's pretty darn impressive. That's actually just best KD on the team. On top of Melmetal. So I love a lot of the top end of the team, but yeah, you're right. Once we get below Rhyperior, Crobat's solid, but even then, power creep is definitely caught up to that guy, I'm sure, in Gen 8 and Gen 9 Nadex. Sure. And the other Pokemon just are not very good.
Yeah, the other Pokemon, I mean, they didn't even come once, so I'd probably give this, I'm probably going to say a 6.5 out of 10. Just because I think it's very top heavy, and the numbers didn't impress me as much as I was expecting them to. So I'd probably give it a 6.5.
Yeah, 6.5 looks pretty good to me.
All right, we're moving on to Razorclaw, and I remember seeing this and I was thinking like, okay, he just got like 3 Paradox Pokemon like back to back, like what is going on here? And then the rest of the team is actually pretty solid as well. I'm not sure if there was Terra on any of these guys, but like Terra, Sinistra, pretty strong. Tinglu just never dies; it's impossible to kill. Tinkaton is a good sort of like secondary fairy to have with your Iron Valley, and Ursaring has been picked up a lot this gen. So overall speaking, like this team looks like really strong as well. Like Gen 9 Gliscor with all the spike support, for these guys to just come in and click buttons sounds absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, Gliscor's freed up too, because we have another top 5 spiker and Tinglu. It's pretty incredible. I also love that we have a very solid rapid spinner and Tentacruel, meaning that we don't have to ever fog away our own webs. Not that there is one of those Pokemon on the team, but I also love a good spin with Big Bundle with guys like Gouging Fire that rock a pair of boots, but are immensely better when we feel comfortable enough that we can keep hazards away the entire time. And again, lower tier bulk, a lot of higher tier offense, but all of the Pokemon bring incredible value. Ursaring, Tinkaton, Sinistra, Tentacruel, right on top of the Gliscor at the top end. So this team's really incredible offensively and has some great general sponges to take damage. I think the one thing I'd like a little bit more is maybe more of a means to get into
your big
guys like
hitters.
Valiant and Gouging. Yeah, I mean, we technically have Tentacruel. I think it's really hard to flip turn on Tentacruel. Bundle is great at grabbing momentum, but that means we're kind of reserving Bundle to that like boots pivoting role, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of takes away that factor. So I guess it's a one qualm with it, but overall, I mean, I think the team's incredibly strong.
I do agree. Like having Bundle in and just clicking flip turn sometimes feels kind of bad because you could just be clicking a button and just like killing something. So there is a bit of a lack of like getting those guys in. But overall speaking, very strong squad, and I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10, I'd say.
Yeah, I think 8 is about fair.
Yeah, it has really good like offense on the top end, and then good like low tier value picks. So I'm a big fan of a draft like that. Big fan. So this is actually for a tournament. It's for the summer seasonal. So it is only 8 in this case. I don't know if people can draft 9, but this is a pretty solid squad to have for a tournament sort of like setting, because you do have a lot of roles being filled here. Weezing is super popular in tournaments because it just feels like so many different roles. Serena, very good spinner. I assume this is like Open Terra Annihilate, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah. If it's summer seasonal, yeah, it's free Terra 8.
Yeah, which is insane, because that guy can easily get out of hand. I'm not too sure on like Iron Boulder yet, or like even Roaring Moon and Sandy Shocks are a little bit iffy in my book, but overall speaking, this is a pretty good draft, taking into considerations for like a tournament.
Yeah, I think it definitely has some great aspects to it, right? I love guys like Annihilate, but I actually love the core of Annihilate plus Shocks. I think Shocks sets up really free spikes, and I think 8 really appreciates those throughout the game, especially because a lot of the times, you know, we think of just, you know, bulk up Spadef, but what's been gaining a lot of traction lately is like AV Apes and Scarf Apes and things like that, pivoting in on weaker attacks, forcing switches with the U-turn, throwing off really strong Rage Fist. Guys like Boulder also really appreciate the hazard stack from Shocks, which is really nice. I am a bit iffy, like you said, as well, on Boulder and Moon. As much as I love Moon's design, I think he's so sick. I really think he's not a very good Pokemon without Terra. I do think that it offers a pretty cool speed tier to this team, but it's not like Boulder doesn't also feel that. Boulder's another Pokemon I'm a little bit iffy on. I think with Terra and Booster, it can be incredibly terrifying. And I know it was Terra legal in this tournament, but obviously if you draft 8, it's another Pokemon, you Terra the 8. So I understand the decision there. But there are a couple guys that are a bit iffy in my mind with that regard, but definitely some great roll compression, like you said, as well, with guys like Weezing. Even guys like Prim going double fairy there is pretty darn nice. So, and guys like Sandy Shocks, you know, filling, you know, kind of a flying resist gap, getting up a bunch of hazards, so which the rest of the team really struggles with. So, yeah, pretty solid team. Yeah,
considering it's for a tournament, you're obviously going to be drafting like 7, 8, 9 Pokemon at most. It's a pretty decent one. I don't play in tournaments too often myself, so I don't exactly know what the meta is there, but I'd probably give it, for a tournament team, probably like a 7 out of 10, because there are a couple of Pokemon that I am very iffy on, but apparently they really like the team, because they say that they haven't really struggled with any matchup whatsoever. But I'd probably go as far as like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think 6.57 is about fair.
Yeah, okay. Now we have Pickle Nugget, who actually submitted 4 drafts. We're only going to go look over one of them. I think I want to look over this one, because there's a Zeraora there, and it's been a long time since I've seen a Zeraora, and I don't even know exactly like how viable it is in Nat decks nowadays. I don't know if you have any idea.
No, I mean, it does what it did before, and I think Zera and Nat decks is really cool in the sense that it keeps all of those, like, I was a big Zera guy in Gen 8, and my favorite Zera set is Subtoxic, and I think obviously the fact that it can still do that in a Nat deck setting is pretty cool, and this is much more of like kind of a balanced build, getting guys like Lele and click a button, but it's kind of just to sit here and outlast when you guys like have guys like Zama Crowned, Gliscor with Roost, Toxapex with all of his moves back, guys like Incin to pivot, Uxie to pivot, Delmise is also a really slept on Pokemon. So honestly, a really solid balance build. It's cool to see because it doesn't really exist in Paldea decks.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I can definitely see that. I was looking at the Toxapex and I was like, maybe this guy looks a little bit out of place, just because like it's a momentum sucker and there's so many things here that get pivoting. In a Noct deck's context, I'm not too sure about how broken it is, because outside of Zamazenta Crowned, I don't see anything that super jumps out, but I'd probably give it a solid like 6.5.
Yeah, I think 6.5 is about fair for this guy. 6.5 or about a 7.
So we've got Nova Blader, one of my favorite teams to use. I did beat the undefeated player who chose me. He was 9-0 plus 40, so he made a big mistake in challenging you. He also had Qianpao, and this was his squadron. I immediately look at Enamorus, and I'm kind of convinced Enamorus is a little bit of a fraud. I know that you've used it to good success, but I don't know, especially for it being the most expensive Pokemon on this team. I just think it's a little bit of a fraud, but I'm a big fan of Meowscarada. Big fan of Meowscarada, and 13-point Hisuian Samurott is also a little bit crazy here.
Yeah, definitely seems like a team that I could see having success. By the way, 9-0 plus 40 is insane. Losing Pokemons all season. That's a crazy diff number. I definitely think it's interesting. I like the hazard stack approach. I love having, I think Cleavor plus Samurot's actually a pretty interesting core. Like, you think of them in the same vein because they're both Hisui guys, set up hazards by attacking. But, like, I think the concept of setting up hazards by attacking is inherently insanely broken. I'm a big Hisuian Samurai guy. I think that guy's incredible. I also of the opinion that lately that I think it's okay for Meowscarada to be your best Maw.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more valuable than Enam, provided that both can't Terra. Enam with Terra is incredible. Enam is solid on this team enough too, because something I think it lacks is that like solid Scarfer tier over base 100. Up to this point, your best Scarfer is going to be like Cleave or Samurott, and they don't outspeed a lot of things you want to outspeed with Scarf. So I like it on the team a lot, and especially with hazards, EM can kind of just come in, click Moonblast, 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 and having that Scarf healing wish into guys like Volcanion, Cleave, or Samurott.
Yeah.
And even Meowscarada in a pinch is pretty cool. I wouldn't say this team is necessarily broken, but I can see why you had success with it, and I'm always going to be a big fan of the Terra Hisui Trode.
Yeah, I'm probably thinking this is like earlier in the gen because we do see like a 13-point Hisuian Samurott and like an 18-point Enamorus. But overall speaking, yeah, I do like the team. It's definitely not one of the most broken teams we've seen. It's a pretty balanced team. I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10 if I had to rate it.
Yeah, I was just about to say 6 is about perfect.
This is actually a Gen 6 team. Did you ever end up playing Gen 6 Draft League like at the time or?
So no, I started playing Draft right at the end of Sun and Moon, right before Usum. I've played a lot of Gen 6 Draft in general, but I did not play any XY Draft. I know that's a completely different metagame.
Different, yeah.
I've played a ton of Auras. Like I just finished, like I came top 32 in Smoke on Auras, like their tournament they did for Draft.
Yeah.
Recently, but this is going to be very, very different from XY Draft. However, I have watched a lot of old Draft content, and I know like. A lot of my friends who had watched a little old Draft League content, they would have lost their mind, especially because this was back in the time where Talonflame was considered the GOAT. He's seen a little bit of a fall off, but I really like this team, honestly. I think Starmie is like almost a requirement on T-Flame teams. I like the dual fire offense too with Victini is very, very cool. Lando Mega Manectric is a tried and true core. I'm not big on Lando plus Excadrill, but it might have been like a case of like free draft because it was XY, and back in those days there weren't a lot of tiers, and there definitely wasn't a point system. So it might have been free draft looking at the Pokemon on this team, because Starmie is incredible in Gen 6 draft. Talonflame, Roserade is an incredible spiker, which fits super well in this team. Weavile is great. Again, I love Weavile plus Victini. Landorus is incredible in Gen 6 draft. That's Gen 6 GOAT. Gen 6 and 7 GOAT. And then Mega Manectric is a pretty cool low tier Mega. I mean, considering the time in which this happened, I think it's pretty insane.
Yeah, I think it's pretty insane.
Yeah. So this is a really cool team. It's also really cool seeing XY draft.
Yeah, that is cool. I was surprised you got a submission from X and Y, but yeah, I didn't play X and Y draft either. I started in Gen 6, so I only played Oris, but I know that this team is absolutely insane for X and Y. So you know what? This is probably, in its own context, this is also like a 9 out of 10. This is probably a 9 out of 10. I think
when you take into account when it happened, 100%. Yeah, like if you take the time frame into account, these were all like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these Pokemon way back in the day, whether justifiably or not, would have been picked up in round 1. Yeah, like it's pretty. And then we have guys like Starmie who are like debatable round 2 picks because of how good reliably it spins. It spins, yeah. In Auras or in XY.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. For its context, I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. This, if you look at it, you're like, okay, this is an Ubers League, but actually, apparently, this is not an Ubers League. This is a Natdex League, and I didn't know Natdex was allowing like Giratina Origin. I didn't know that.
I don't think that's a common thing, to be honest. I think his buddy might have just found a funny one.
Yeah.
To be honest, everyone's gonna find. I mean, Gira O, Mega Malway, which is debatable top 3 mon. Terra Ogerpon, which I don't know if you've kept up much on the show. Don't see like. In Gen 8 or in Gen 9
I've been made aware. I've been made aware.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. I used it in one of my DPL games, and like the freedom that the item slot allows you, the guaranteed +1, and how strong those IV cudgels are, incredible. Zama, I forget the form. Zama, but doesn't have his shield.
Yeah.
Also an incredibly broken mon that can hold an item despite having other forms. Gren is another debatable, like, late, round 1, early round 2 pick in this gen. Yeah, like. There's some really insane mons. And then great support pieces. Guys like Lamore and Rotom, pretty solid. I'm like the biggest Chimecho stan of all time. I think that guy's so fire for 1 point. Oh, 100%. I drafted him in that Smoke on Auras tour. We got top 32, and I drafted him in Usum too. I had 1 point in both those tournaments, and that's my guy. Love that guy. Incredible move pool. So this one gets a stamp of approval from me. This is pretty broken.
I mean, I was about to critique it and say like, oh, but you're basically playing with 7 Pokemon because Chimecho, Wishcash, and Cutiefly don't count. But apparently Chimecho is.
We got 8.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Maybe Chimecho is actually the truth, and we just haven't seen it yet. But I mean, yeah, this
Wishcash
is
ground type is tough.
Yeah,
that is tough.
I just watched like a short on like Wishcast is actually like really good in ZU apparently now that it has spikes and stuff like that because it can't even get taunted because of your ability. So maybe Wishcast has some sort of value to it. And then as a 1 point, like Weber, Cutiefly is probably the best that is out there as well. So maybe there is some sort of like hidden value down in those bottom 3 that I just wasn't aware of. It does seem like a pretty insane draft for a Nat Dexley. So I'd probably give it like, I wouldn't go 9, but I'd probably give it like 8.5 because I've been told that Terra OGalbina is absolutely insane. So we're looking at a Palafin and Annihilate at pick 6 and 19, which I know at the beginning of the gen, Annihilate was often going round 1, not so much now. So it's not super surprising to see it with something like with Palafin. Yeah, especially without Terra. We do see some like the typical low tier Terra captains with your Killer Waltrell, with your Earthworm. We see Tentacruel and Toadscroll, which is super interesting actually. But what I do like with this team is I think it was on a team that we saw before with Palafin and Annihilate perhaps, but it's Grimmsnarl that offers screens so that you have so much freedom to just make those guys set up and go crazy and just like be like so insanely hard to kill. So that's where I think the true strength of this draft is, that screens, and then you get those guys in, and then it's probably game over.
Yeah, I think that's a big aspect of Gen 9. I mean, there's been so many matches where I just feel really stressed out and overwhelmed with it, but then I go, oh well, if I Mickey and cheese my way through and set up and win first, it doesn't matter if I don't have switch into 12 things, right? It doesn't matter if his whole team outspeeds. So I think it's always really valuable to have an option like that. And there's some, cool, more balancey aspects of it. I also like the T-Wave support with guys like Arcanine. Incredibly. T-Wave support with Arcanine and Palafin, right? If we're just banded in both. Pokemon that don't really have switch-ins despite having technical resist, right? So pretty cool. I also like Arcanine plus Palafin in the sense that they both force damage on Water Stripe. If
your Water Stripe's trying to switch in on Hisui and Arcanine and you get like Head Smash on it, and then Palafin just has like a free opening, that can become very scary. So I do like the team. I don't think it's too far on the broken scale. I think it's a pretty like well-balanced team, a pretty like standard Gen 9 team, but I'd probably give it 6.5 out of 10, I think, because I really like the screens with those top 3 guys.
Yeah, I see. 6.5 is about good.
We're moving on to Endless Gadget, and this was an Ubers league. I don't really know much about Ubers, so I'm kind of gonna let you sort of like look at it and just sort of like tell me why this team is broken.
So I remember this was beginning of the generation. This was BBL, an Ubers league that's been around for a long time. They do like a yearly tournament, and it's national decks a lot of time because it's just more Ubers. It's more fun. We didn't quite know how broken Big Miraidon was actually going to be. That Pokemon was, anybody who had it in the tournament, and there was like 100 plus people in the tournament, it was an auto win button, right? Just came in, won the video game. I'm sure if you've watched any VGC, you see how ridiculously strong that Pokemon can be. When there's only one Pokemon on the other side, it's insane. There was not really much of a switch in at all in the metagame, and it's incredibly fast, incredibly bulky, can Calm Mind, all that stuff. On top of that, we have Mega Metagross. We have Rain plus Basculegion. This is also Basculegion with Last Respects, because again, early gen. So this is a Basculegion that could come in, you blitz with your offensive Miraidon, Metagross, Meowscarada, Garchomp, all of these guys, and then come in and just sweep through with the Last Respects, right? It doesn't have any switch-ins. Terra Garchomp is another great option. And even cool low-tier guys, Grimmsnarl is incredible for this team. Pokemon like Miraidon, Mega Metagross under screens, how do you kill it? Your Earthquakes are doing 25% at that point. Garchomp setting up Swords Dances and Scale Shots, right? Alongside Terra Steel, and I don't remember what the other type was. I've watched a lot of Endless's games from this tournament on stream, because we do like, stream watch your game submissions, and he put like his entire run in here, and this team was super disgusting in practice. Incredibly broken, as a guy who has played a lot of Uber's draft.
Damn, alright, so if you had to rate it on like how broken it is, how broken do you actually think it is for Uber's team?
I think this is another 9. Guaranteed.
Really?
I think this is, I think this is debatably even better than the Kurt team that we saw earlier. Like, this team was absolutely insane. Miraidon should never be near any singles format with a 10-foot bull. Like,
lesson learned, I guess. Lesson learned. So, we're running with a 9 out of 10 for this Ubers draft. So we're done with our Twitter suggestions, but I have a couple of submissions of people who don't have Twitter. This we're looking at here is Mounte's PPL team, and we're gonna get to Addison's PPL team because that thing is also broken. But I think this team might be a little bit better than Addison's, like in general. I don't know. I wanted to get your opinion on it because I've been saying that for a little bit, and people always seem to say I'm crazy. But I look at this team, I'm like, how did we let this guy get all of these things at the same time? Like, this is not okay.
Yeah, so I actually kind of see where you're coming from. I think both their teams are insane. I actually just recently watched both of their runs, like within the last couple months. Like after the season already completed, I finally went through, I binged all their stuff. Spectre is an incredibly broken Pokemon.
Yeah,
it's weird because I used to be one of the guys I was just like, it's not a normal type.
Yeah.
Shut up, you know? But especially when I played Aster with it in BBR finals, how centralizing and overwhelming that Pokemon can be in the builder when it has the proper support, and especially a Pokemon like Sneasler. That was a core that I drafted back in WPF last year.
I remember, yeah.
And those two are absolutely incredible. I think like the trend of passive damage with those two is insane. We just had crazy Hex end games. We got crazy momentum with our Sneasler as well for Pokemon like Chiyu, which functions as an incredible breaker for this team. Really putting a lot of damage on everything. We have guys like Rillaboom, again, functioning as an incredible pivot. Great pairing with Sneasler. Ursaluna loves that passive recovery, either giving it lefties plus the terrain, which I think is usually at its best when it's running some kind of lefties or AV set, or if you're just going, I'm going to be a breaker with Flame Orb and set up Trick Room with my Mesprit that can Terra, or my Diancie,
yeah.
That's an option. There's also a Sticky Web option in the Galvantula. There's a ton of different modes that this team has, and I think it really showed Mounte's run how versatile his team could be in the building process, and how it really felt like a guessing game for the opponent on which playstyle he was going to go with. And there's always that Spectre that's just going to come in and clean in the back.
Yeah, sometimes you think you're prepped for Spectre. Like in the BBR against Amel, I had Tyranitar. I had like double Dark type and like a Heatran. I was like, I'm fine into Spectre, and guess what? I ended up getting swept by Spectre because even when you think you're okay against it, you might not actually be. So thankfully, I didn't have to prep for this team in the PPL because it just looks like a nightmare because it has so much power. But then, as you said, it has so many different routes that you can go with in terms of the offense that I think this team is like for Wi-Fi leagues that I've played in. Probably the most broken team. You know what? I'm gonna give it an 8.6 because I'm probably gonna give Addison's team an 8.5, but I'm gonna give this team an 8.6 out of 10.
I think this team is about as like realistic of like a lot of these teams aren't super realistic in the sense that you're probably not gonna get the same stuff that they got, just because I don't know, whatever circumstance, right? They usually kind of end up like stumbling your way into those silly teams. This is a team that you can realistically get, but like it's crafted to such a perfect degree. Like I don't know, it's a very solid team.
It's a very solid team. Yeah. Actually, we're just gonna move on to Addison's PPL team just so people have a reference as to what to compare it to. This is when I started seeing like a lot of Deoxys Greninja teams sort of like and those two Pokemon going together. So for context, she didn't have Zamazenta during the draft. Everything else she did draft, but then Seabad ended up dropping Zamazenta, and she then picked it up. It made her team absolutely ridiculous.
I already think that Dio is broken. Right? Like I think that guy should be banned. I'm also a big believer that Zama should be banned as well. Like I know it's so stat nerf, the ability nerf, but that guy getting body press alone just makes it incredibly crazy. On top of getting like Rock Slide and Stone Edge, or at least Stone Edge, I know that. And being really good offensively with just like CC Behemoth Bash sets. Like you can't just prep for it being defensive. It's fast and it's strong. Greninja is also a round 1 Pokemon at this point in my mind.
Yeah.
Like it is already a round 1 Pokemon. And we have great lower tier value. Well, Dragonite's not lower tier, but I love that guy. Swampert is incredible roll compression, especially when you're drafting so top heavy and you have guys like Dio, Zama, Gren, Dragonite. You kind of got to cut some prices somewhere. So getting such a great roll compression mod is great. Tink is one of the best fairies in the format. Reliable spin alongside our hazard stack with either Greninja or Quillfish, which functions as a more, more defensive water, traditional resist wise, right? Because Swampert kind of lacks a couple of those resists you want. Ursaring is incredibly strong, but also gives a really good ghost check, which is nice when you're playing in a league against Spectre.
Against a Spectre, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it is still really threatening offensively, and Rotom's just a great pivot, helps beat Waters down alongside Serena. This team is also very well crafted.
Yeah, this team, fun fact, was actually the team that, a little bit like Kirby, it sort of like forced rules to change within the league, and I guess that just goes to show like how broken this team sort of like actually is. It is a little bit insane. Like Deoxyspeed and Zamazenta should definitely not be allowed, and I think a lot of league are just not banning them because that's the right thing to do. So imagine having both of them on your team. I still think from a personal perspective, I'd probably rather use Mounte's team because I like it more. Just
it seems easier to pilot. Yeah, it seems like easier to pilot, whereas this team definitely requires some creativity because again, it's not like a lot of those other top end teams where you can kind of just go, just
button clickers.
Yeah, we're gonna draft all the guys that are broken and figure out a way to win. And it does make some matchups hard, right? Where you're like looking at like, because I got all these broken guys, I don't have a reliable check to X.
Exactly, yeah.
This, blah, blah, blah. So there's I'm sure there was a ton of those, and not that you can't obviously overcome that with the broken league. I mean, she won the league.
Yeah, she actually won it. And she made us change the rules, so like...
Yeah, there you go. So like, you can definitely do it. I would probably prefer to use Mounte's team personally.
Yeah.
But I think this team is on the same level.
On the same level, yeah. Okay. I just wanted Mounte's team to get some recognition because I keep hearing people say like, oh, Addison's team was like insane, but I just want to bring attention that Mounte's team was not any less insane. For sure.
Oh, 100%.
It was crazy. All right, so we got 3 final ones, and this is Mike. The thing that I have to mention about this is 2 things. First of all, that is Last Respect's Basque Legion on. This is just like a standard league. They actually drafted a Terra type, so the entire team can Terra into an Ice type, which makes Regieleki stupid.
So you're just tearing the Aleki.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It's worth it though. Like
that's worth it. Oh, 100%. 100%. I get a lot of people talk to me about this because again, I'm one the biggest Aleki hater of all time, but also the biggest like Terra Aleki glazer. I think that guy's insanely broken, right? And again, banned in most places, but I've had a lot of like conversations with viewers and people on my server about like it's just an 80 base power coverage move. I don't think you realize how strong that Pokemon is.
You don't.
When it is allowed to get those free volt switches, right? The ice moves aren't strong, but you're in a position where one, you live one from the ground, right? Especially for rock boots, which you're typically going to. You'll live the rock slide, right? Especially because you have 200 base speed.
Yeah, right? You have so many EVs.
Up to like 115.
Yeah.
You're throwing off incredibly free volts. You're still 2-hit KOing 90% of grounds if you catch them with that Terra Blast. And from there, it doesn't matter if they have 3 dragons. You're just gonna, or 3 grasses, or like whatever it is, right? We have the Terra Blast coverage, and our volts are doing 30% to resist. Like
it doesn't matter. Yeah. No, we had it allowed in the BBR one season. I actually played Mounte with it, and one thing that he did that sort of like caught me off guard was that like I had a Clodsire, so he ran like a Regieleki that would make it then Terra Blast be physical, and he hit me with a physical Terra Blast Ice and just absolutely blew me back. So this guy
don't have to be special,
exactly.
Wild Charge plus Terra Blast is just a physical bolt beam,
no, it's crazy. And then on top of that, you can just bring in like your Basque Legion late game under rain with Last Respects when all the things are gone and Regieleki's done its thing. Basque Legion just comes up and it cleans. So this team is really strong. I don't think there's a bad Pokemon on this entire draft. Like Grafaiai is pretty decent for what you're paying for it. Volcanion pretty decent. Hydreigon's a little bit of for all this gen. I don't like it too much, but it's not a bad Pokemon by any means.
It's good with Screamtail here. I like it with Screamtail and Hydreigon a lot. Like those 3 kind of complement each other really well, especially because like Hydreigon can't roost anymore. I also love Screamtail plus Volcanion, and Volcanion is ridiculously strong under the rain. If we could find opportunities to get it in, I think about 8.5 is about fair. I think this team, outside of those 2, is just like a decently structured rain team. So I think it's harder for me to put it above the other ones.
Yeah, above the other ones.
I think 8.5 is about fair.
Final 2. So we have Frandy. This is actually an interesting take because usually I see Sneasler with Rillaboom and obviously Snapdex because there's a Tapu Lele there, but that offensive synergy there looks really interesting.
Yeah. This was actually a fun fact. In the Showdown League I run out on my Discord server. This team that Frandy has right here. Yeah. So I've seen a lot of replays of this because again, we're doing, roster streams and things like that. Really strong. Terra Sneasler is a different beast. That guy is incredibly strong. Because not only do we have the SD Psychic Seed WinCon guys with a Terra typing if you're choosing, we also just have Banded and Scarfed and things of the sort where we get poison touches and you turn around and put on a ton of pressure that way. So I think it's very versatile in that regard. We're playing with guys like Heatran plus Ursaluna, and then even guys like Aloe to pass Fat Wishes into it, which is pretty darn cool. So there's like a little bit more of a balance orientate, or interpretation of it. We have guys like Natdex Hydreigon plus Lele plus Volk, which is another really strong offensive core. Lele is not to be messed with. That guy is incredibly strong despite the nerfs last gen. So yeah, I mean, overall, a really powerful team.
Yeah, Randy did send me the screenshot, and Sneasler went 25-2.
Yeah.
In 10 games.
That is a Pokemon. If you are not aptly prepared, you you are gonna get
Those are
smoked.
insane numbers.
I'm pretty sure if Randy went. Oh man, I know they made it to finals. I'm not sure if they won finals or lost.
I think she won finals because she sent me the record and it was 10-1. So I think she must have dropped like a.
Yeah, that's 11. Yeah.
Yeah, 10-1. So she won the entire thing, and you can see why, because Terra Sneasler is the truth. Was this like open Terra preview? I assume?
Yeah, it was free Terra. It was free Terra preview.
Yeah. No, this that Sneasler absolutely carried the entire team then, because that is those are insane numbers. 25-2 in 10 weeks, averaging 2.5 kills.
There's barely 25 Pokemon to kill. Yeah,
yeah, that's
pretty insane.
In terms of a broken rating, do you think Terra Sneasler takes it like that much higher on the sort of like broken spectrum?
Considering the teams that we've seen, I think this team is really well structurally built and they're a really solid team. I'd say it's probably sitting around a 7.5 for me though.
Yeah, I would say
really strong, and again has that Sneasler that's absolutely potent and carrying supported really well. But I wouldn't say it's like a holy shit, how did this happen draft, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. I was gonna go 7, but 7.5 sounds fair, just for out of respect for the Sneasler putting up like those type of numbers.
You're in that.
Yeah, that Pokemon went absolutely crazy. All right, finally we're gonna end on Central submission, and this is a 9-mon draft, but we do see Terra Boulder and Terra Ironmoth, and I'm a big fan of Terrapagos lately, and then Garchomp is just like Garchomp. It just gets stuff done. Yeah,
this is the thing.
It gets stuff done.
No, I like this team a lot. Again, also, the Gen 7 starter trio is pretty fire. They all fit together really well, too, because of their typings and things like that.
I actually just noticed that. I had not noticed that at all.
It's a pretty good core. I really like this team. I think Terra Boulder, again, it's just like a Lucky. I think regular Boulder is pretty bad. I don't like that guy at all. I got into a heated debate with John about where we tiered it this season in PBR, because I think it's terrible. He thinks it's broken. But with Terra, I think it's incredible, right? Whether it be with Choice Band Terra Rock sets, I mean, not much really switches into those Mighty Cleaves.
Absolutely
or just
not,
booster speed, Swords Dance up, and your Terra Ground, your Terra Fighting, your Terra, even random like Water. I think I got swept in a league once by Terra Ice, Terra Blast, and I had like a Lando or something like that. Like, it's an incredibly strong Pokemon, and I'm also a big Iron Moth guy too. And there's definitely matchups where neither of them have to Terra, and I think that's very valuable in its own right? Having two Pokemon that are incredibly potent with Terra and incredibly strong, but aren't always required in a position to Terra or even run Terra Blast, so that we can kind of be a little bit more flexible in our game plans and in our playing and positioning. And I think that's really cool. I would have loved one more Spiker. Again, we said the same thing with the Garchomp team before. Guys like these love Spikes Up, and I'm sure Garchomp did it very well when it does it. But that guy also likes to Swords Dance and Scale Shot and take advantage of the spikes. So yeah, overall, a really solid team. I like this team a lot, actually.
Yeah, no, you want Garchomp to be able to do a little bit more than just set up spikes, but I mean, at the same time, if Boulder and Iron Moth are just killing everything, I was gonna say like the bigger problem this team might have is like choosing what Pokemon to Terra every week, because both of them are incredibly good Terra captains. I'm gonna give this bonus points because like triple starter from Gen 7, like I did not notice that until you pointed it out.
Fit that on and fit it well. It fits seamlessly. It doesn't even look like you forced it.
Yeah, no, that's why I didn't even notice it. It's just like it fits well. Like they complement each other pretty well, and it's just a nice fit on the team. So for that, I'm going to give it 0.5 more, so I'm going to give it a 7.5 for the triple starter trio.
Yeah, I think that's fine. 7.5 looks good.
All right, perfect. So that's going to be all the drafts we have for today. We actually got a lot more responses than I was expecting, so thank you guys so much for sending those. Yeah, make sure you guys check out Owen if you haven't already for some reason, and I'll see you all next time.